For months now, many on the left have been saying that Joe Biden's support will drop in the polls once people become more familiar with the candidates in the race, including Joe Biden himself. So even though Joe Biden has been leading the majority of polls that have been out, the reality is a lot of people are not aware of, or maybe forget, how terrible Joe Biden is. But finally, it appears that voters are at least beginning to pay attention, at least judging from this new Monmouth University poll. So these numbers are amazing. Look at the numbers compared to June. So Bernie Sanders now is in the lead. He is a +6, now at 20%. Warren is +5, tied with Sanders at 20%. Joe Biden, -13, dropping from 32% to 19%. This is the biggest drop that Joe Biden has seen in any poll. Now, again, this is one poll, but this is a trend. So as more and more polling has come out, Biden continues to lose support among Democratic primary voters. But this poll really showcases potentially the beginning of Joe Biden's massive drop. So, I mean, just looking at these numbers directly, just Bernie Sanders, Warren, Biden, it's clear that progressive ideas are popular. So despite what the media tries to tell you, largely because it is the corporate media that doesn't want to have to talk about higher wages for employees or raising taxes on the wealthy, the corporate media has been trying to push this narrative that, Joe Biden, he'll be able to appeal to conservative voters just like Hillary Clinton did. Oh, yeah, that didn't work out last time. So why the hell would it work out this time? It wouldn't. And voters are beginning to catch on now. So progressive ideas, clearly, with Bernie and Warren in the lead, are popular. Now, Biden's losses are just, his loss in this poll, just from every demographic. So let me go through this data here. Biden has suffered an across-the-board decline in his support since June. He lost ground with white Democrats from 32% to 18%, and voters of color from 33% to 19%. Among voters without a college degree, from 35% to 18%, and college graduates, from 28% to 20%, with both men from 38% to 24%, and women from 29% to 16%, and among voters under 50 years old, from 21% to 6%, as well as voters aged 50 and over, from 42% to 33%. Most of Biden's lost support in these groups shifted almost equally towards Sanders and Warren. So this also shows you that a lot of voters right now, they're not all that aware of what Biden supported or what Biden supports. As in, voters are not aware, most voters are not aware of ideology. So a lot of Biden support going to Bernie and Warren, if you are, into politics like I am, might seem weird, as Joe Biden is the opposite politically compared to Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. But a lot of this support goes to Bernie and Warren because a lot of voters understand that maybe nominating somebody that is essentially Hillary Clinton 2.0 is not a good idea against Donald Trump. You need to support somebody that actually has bold ideas, that actually can generate some real grassroots support. And Warren, and especially Bernie Sanders, do that. Now, it's also important to look at how, apart from the obvious that Bernie Sanders attracts young people the most out of anybody, we also need to look at diversity. So Democrats also need a candidate that can attract a diverse group of supporters. Well, looking at this poll, Bernie Sanders is that person. So Joe Biden's support among Hispanic, Black, Asian, and other is 19%. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders, his support among Hispanic, Black, and Asian, and other is 22%. And Elizabeth Warren, to actually my surprise, is even lower than Joe Biden at 14% among diverse race groups. And looking at this same data, Sanders has the highest support with people of color while also attracting as many white supporters as Joe Biden, both at 18%. So it's a win-win. Bernie Sanders attracts white people, just like Joe Biden does. But on top of that, Bernie Sanders also attracts people of color. Bernie Sanders attracts a diverse group of support, a kind of coalition that Hillary Clinton was not able to form in 2016. Now, you combine this new set of data with all the other data that we have on Bernie Sanders, like how Bernie is the first in individual donors, almost doubling that of the second place Elizabeth Warren. I mean, look at his support all across the country. Whether it's, it's completely coast to coast, whether you're talking about, California or New York or just the middle of the country. Bernie Sanders has the most individual donors by far. And then you also look at the recent crowds that Bernie's attracting. So this crowd in California at a recent rally is just massive, but it also goes, as I was saying, to all other states. So Kentucky, look at this massive crowd that Bernie got in Kentucky this past week. And then we go to Minnesota. This is insane. These are the kind of crowds that Bernie is attracting. And are you seeing any of this covered in mainstream press? Occasionally, maybe they'll cover one of these rallies and showcase the crowd, but it is not a consistent message with them. Again, understand that corporate media has a particular bias, just like I do. My bias is towards the people. I want people to benefit, the average person to benefit. Corporate media, controlled by wealthy individuals, obviously have a different bias. They enjoy the status quo. It's currently working out for them, while it's not working out for anybody else. Now, on top of all that, it's also incredibly important to showcase how Bernie Sanders beats Trump in polling, even doing better than Joe Biden. So this here. A new Survey USA poll says Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders would trounce President Donald Trump in a 2020 matchup 50-42. Common Dreams reports that it is the 15th straight poll that shows Sanders beating Trump. While the poll revealed that Sanders is viewed most favorably by Democratic voters, it also revealed that he would beat Trump by 10 percentage points when only accounting for independents. Comparatively, Joe Biden beat Trump by a 6% margin among independents. So this is, maybe the most important point when trying to, talk about this with your friends and family. Because a lot of people support Joe Biden because they think he's the best person to defeat Donald Trump. People think, hey, I don't like that Joe Biden has all these gaffes. I don't even maybe like his platform. I don't like his policies. But we need to get Trump out of there. And if Joe Biden's the guy to do it, then he's the guy to do it. But if you look at these same polls, that first, yes, let's acknowledge that Joe Biden does defeat Trump in these polls when it comes to a general election matchup. But so does Bernie Sanders. So that's what's not being reported by the press. Again, the corporate media that has their status quo bias. And look, I have a bias. My bias is towards the people. My bias is towards policies that will actually help lift the average person up. But the mainstream press have their bias of looking at candidates in a way where, well, Joe Biden maintains the status quo. He doesn't challenge our power, our wealth. So we're going to be a little more kinder to him and a little more kinder to other candidates that also won't challenge us because we prefer that to Bernie Sanders, who we know as the corporate media will completely change the system. Will change it for the better in terms of helping people that have been left behind, which is 99% of people. So looking at these poll numbers, Bernie Sanders, and I think part of the reason he defeats Trump with independents by a higher number than Joe Biden does is because Bernie Sanders is an independent senator. He's not stuck to either party. That appeals to people. I laugh all the time when I see people, whether they're Democrats or people in the press say, well, Bernie's not even a Democrat and he's running for the Democratic nomination. That's a huge plus. The fact that Bernie's independent is a huge plus going into a general election. That appeals to a lot of people. Many people will simply shut down to any Democrat. They just see the word Democrat, that's it. They're done. But when it comes to someone who's an independent, a lifelong independent, who has a history of fighting the establishment, the political establishment on both sides, who, I mean, you watch Bernie on the campaign trail, he talks all the time about how it's going to require a grassroots movement to actually change things because he understands the power that is in the status quo, the power that the establishment holds. So it requires a grassroots movement of millions of people around the country to actually push back against that and defeat that and support policy and pass policy that benefits the average person. Bernie understands that. As an independent, he's had to deal with that his entire career. So again, you have to talk to your friends and family about this. Whether it's this recent poll showing Biden dropping 13 points, whether it's the crowds that Bernie Sanders is attracting, whether it's these polls that showcase that while Biden is beating Trump in these polls, so is Bernie, and with better numbers with independents, then I mean it's not even close. Bernie Sanders is the only candidate right now that deserves your support, that deserves any attention in this race, because he is the one that not only has the bold platform that speaks to young people, speaks to a diverse group of people, speaks to workers, that actually supports policies that will lift up the vast majority of people. Not only does Bernie have the platform, but he also has the ability to defeat Trump just as much, if not more, than Joe Biden does. So, discussion over. Tell your friends and family. You have to spread this message. Most people that watch my videos already know this stuff, but you have to get to the people who aren't really paying attention to politics. You have to get them to support a candidate that actually cares about them. And that candidate is clearly Bernie Sanders.